A common strategy in retirement planning is called the Rule of 100. Now, it says that individuals should hold a percentage of stocks equal to 100 minus their age. So, if you're age 60, 40% of the portfolio should be equities and 60% should be held in conservative or otherwise fixed rate investments like bonds, treasuries, and CDs. However, many of these investments aren't as attractive right now, and to compensate, many investors' equity exposure may be too high for their age. Alternatives in the form of fixed indexed annuities are something we're going to talk about right now. Joining me is Nicholas Stonnington in Pasadena, California. Nicholas, how does a fixed indexed annuity actually work?
Sure. So it's worth noting that without a rider, a fixed indexed annuity does not produce current income in the way that a bond or perhaps a REIT might. However, for a total return portfolio that wants to have fixed income-like return components to minimize volatility, this solution can certainly make a lot of sense. The way that these typically work is that we take an index or a series of indexes and divide the total allocation amongst the series. And we have a multiplier based on the cost of options and prevailing interest rates, and we decide how much we want to allocate to each multiplier. So the multipliers are associated with a vintage year. So for example, we'd have a 1 year, a 2 year, a 3 year, a 4 year, and a 5 year. And if we were to do a laddered strategy over 5 years, we might allocate 1/5 into each component. And so after 1 year, if the index increases in value, we receive that increase times the multiplier for that tranche of the investment that's allocated. So if we allocated 1/5 of the investment, 1/5 would be 20% of the investment would be credited into that multiplier and then credited into the cash account of the fixed index annuity. If the market were to go down or the index were to decrease in value, the client would receive a zero return. So they don't actually lose money. And the benefit of this, if you were to invest in an equity market or invest directly into the index, and the index were to decrease, the client would absolutely lose money commensurate with the decrease in the index. However, because they're protected by this no loss provision on a 1 year period, they don't actually lose money, and when the index goes up, they gain money. So over 5 years, it's highly probable that at some point the index will appreciate and it resets. So after 1 year, it would reset. So if you were to take the 1 year money and back end that into a 4 year contract so that you have 1 year left on the 2 year, you have 2 years left on the 3 year, 3 years left on the 4 year, and then your 5 year is now 4 year, but then you have a new 4 year. The new 4 year has a different starting point than the 5 year contract did. So if the market or the index were to decrease in value, the new 4 year would have an easier time making money than the old 5 year did.
So how is this strategy different from a variable annuity?
So in a variable annuity, again, depending on the issuer, there may or may not be some element of protection. Typically, you get an allocation to different investments and you participate in the upside, but you generally participate in at least some of the downside. And with fixed indexed annuities, you don't participate in the downside.
So if someone is considering the purchase of a fixed indexed annuity, what questions should they be asking?
I think it's very important to make sure that that individual does not have immediate liquidity needs. At the end of the day, these are not bonds. They do not produce current income without riders in the way that bonds do. And it's very important that they be treated similar to alternative investments, where the client's going to be in this strategy for 5 years or 7 years or 10 years, depending on the strategy and how long it's set up for.
My guest has been Nicholas Stonnington in Pasadena, California. This is Retirement News Online.